Good evening, and welcome to our Facebook Live event to talk about the Center for Literacy Innovation that will be coming soon to Midtown Academy. I'm Lynn Mowat, Executive Director of Exceptional Student Education, and I have with me tonight Eileen Liley, who is the ESE Specialist for Elementary School Education in ESE. And I have Kayla Victor, who is the principal at Midtown Academy. Tonight, our purpose is to share some information about the Center for Literacy concept and to talk a little bit about Midtown Academy so that you have a really good understanding of what the program is going to offer at the school, as well as the wonderful aspects of Midtown Academy, along with a time for you to ask your questions and for us to provide some answers. I do want to let everyone know that we will capture the questions tonight and answer them, but we will also provide a question and answer document on our website after the event. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to begin with talking about the Center for Literacy Innovation and what that brings to Midtown Academy. So we chose Midtown Academy because we know that we are really focused on early literacy throughout the district and particularly with our early learners. And so Midtown Academy offers many things that make it a perfect fit for our students. Midtown Academy has a great program for the arts and also for gifted studies, which allows our students who are going to receive literacy instruction to also have some enrichment as well. So it's a perfect fit. So we're going to get into what the Center for Literacy Innovation is and what our vision is. So the Center for Literacy brings to the school a structured and innovative approach to teaching reading and literacy where each student feels empowered and challenged in their learning. So what exactly does that mean and how does it impact the Center for Literacy Innovation? So first of all, it's a very student-centered approach. It's also very innovative in that it is really designed to address a particular need regarding literacy and learning to read. We provide a very specialized reading curriculum, and it is designed to be based on a student's needs, so they are assessed and we figure out exactly where they may need to begin their reading instruction. It is scaffolded, meaning that there are lots of supports built into it. It's very systematic. Again, we assess our students, we find out exactly where they are and what their needs are, and we pinpoint and address those needs. It's multisensory, which means that students engage in the literacy instruction in many different learning modalities so that they can better generalize those skills that they're learning and also engage in the curriculum. It's very intentionally planned, and what we mean by that is that we group students, we work very closely with the teachers to make sure that those units are planned specifically for that individual student need. And most importantly, it is designed to address the core reading weaknesses that some of our students experience, especially in those early grades. So what does that mean and what does the program offer exactly? Well, one of the wonderful benefits of the Center for Literacy Innovation is that we provide a huge amount of professional development. So we make sure that the teachers that are working with our students are a highly trained staff, and particularly in the areas of reading and writing and literacy throughout the curriculum. We do have a full-time speech-language pathologist that works with the program. They bring a unique perspective to our students because they have a rich background in phonological awareness and the development of how you produce sounds and how those sounds work together to create words. We use research-based practices, not only with the specific reading curriculum that we are using, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, but we also bring research-based practices for literacy and also personalized learning into the program so that students are able to, again, while learning to read better, they are also able to stretch their thinking and engage in some very enriching curriculum. Which leads me to those opportunities for challenge. It's really important to us that the students have activities that are of interest to them, that they can engage in and really dive deep into. And also, again, we will engage in the school-wide enrichment model because Midtown is a school that offers a wonderful gifted program as well as the arts program. So we want to make sure that our students have a well-rounded curriculum. Okay, so one of the unique features that you don't see in a lot of traditional programs is that we do have opportunities for flexible grade grouping. Again, when we talk about the very explicit systematic reading instruction that we're going to be using, very often, depending on where the students' assessments lie, we want to make sure that we are addressing that need specifically where they're at, which means sometimes students may be with students who are not at their same grade, and there may be times when in other subject areas where they may have some advanced skills, we want to make sure that they can also have those opportunities as well. So we do have some flexibility between the first and fifth grade classes to move students as is needed. The other thing that is unique to the Center for Literacy Innovation is that it serves as a training site for teachers who have not yet finished their teaching program and gotten their degree, our pre-service teachers, but also for our staff in Pinellas County to see how we can use some of the concepts that the students are learning and infuse them into their core instruction, as well as how to create interest-based literacy offerings to our students to create more engagement. All right, one of the unique features of our program is that we do have a partnership with the University of South Florida. We've been actually working with them for the past 2 years. They helped us develop some of the professional development that has been provided to our teachers. We are applying for a grant this coming year that will allow us to hopefully partner even more deeply with them. And what we look to do is to provide an opportunity for their pre-service teachers to learn from our teachers and some of the programming that we're using in the center so that when their teachers come out of their program, they know how to differentiate reading instruction particularly, but also instruction across all content areas. And also, they provide professional development. The USF professors provide professional development to our teachers in the Center for Literacy Innovation. They also spend time with them in PLCs to talk about making sure that the literacy instruction is diverse and meets the needs of all of our students, but also to make sure that when we are creating projects that are interesting and personalized for our students, that we are making sure that we are including all of the important literacy standards throughout those projects. The curriculum that we're using in the Center for Literacy is the Lindemood Bell curriculum. It is an Orton-Gillingham-based program, and what that means is that this curriculum is very structured. It is delivered in a very intentional way, and it's focus is really on making sure that there's lots of repetition, but that students are able to learn the skills that they need to decode words and to be able to read more fluently. And it does move them at a rate at which they're learning, and in an effort to really close that learning gap that they might have in reading and make sure that we can get them to reading on grade level as quickly as possible. And we do that through the Seeing Stars program. The other part of the program that Linda Mood Bell offers that we use is called Visualizing and Verbalizing, because while our students are learning to read, we also want them to create pictures in their mind. Again, this is a multisensory program, and we want them to not only be looking at the words on the page, but we want them to create movies in their head that help them to comprehend text at a deeper level successfully. So a lot of times people ask us, what type of student would we be looking at for the Center for Literacy Innovation? We started this program really to support our students who had dyslexia or had characteristics of dyslexia, meaning that they have a great ability to listen to a story and comprehend it. They might have really strong, rich vocabulary and tell wonderful stories, but they do still struggle to read. And a lot of times it's hard to figure out why that is. And very often it has to do with very early phonemic awareness, which is how we hear sounds and put those sounds to print. And so what we want to make sure that we are supporting is those the practice and the learning of those sounds, how to put those sounds together, how to create words. And when you're sounding out words, that they use those principles to sound out words that get longer and longer as they go, and they feel comfortable reading those words and reading them fluently. If we can make sure that they are fluent readers, they are going to have a lot of success with the comprehension. So when you see the slide, you see students that struggle to read the text, and those are the students that we're really looking at in the Center for Literacy Innovation. And then we have students that are on a different end of the scale that may be able to read really fluently, but don't necessarily understand the text. And so, in some cases, we might have some students that fall on that end a little bit as well, and we use the verbalizing and visualizing to help them with that. But we really are looking for those students that we can provide them that rich, early phonemic awareness, phonics-based instruction that is very structured and scaffolded so that they can have great reading success. So we show this slide just to help families understand that really what we're looking at, again, is we're looking when we screen students for the Center for Literacy Innovation, we're looking at those students that fall under that word attack difficulty and word recognition difficulty. And so we want to make sure that we are providing them with a lot of support there, and then building up their ability to read those words quickly and then to get to that accuracy and fluency. So in other words, they practice reading those words in text and are able to read them fluently, which will ultimately lead to overall reading comprehension. Another portion of our program that we've been using is a program based on phonological and phonemic awareness that is a very quick speed drill type lesson plan. And so the students get a lot of practice throughout the day, practicing those phonemic awareness sounds and putting them into words and building words. And finally, I think, the most important thing about the Center for Literacy Innovation is that we are really focused on the reading, but most importantly, we're focused on the whole student. We want to make sure that our students feel very successful, they feel proud, they feel like they are readers, and they are ready to go out there and be successful and conquer the world. One last point. Any of the students who are served in the Center for Literacy Innovation who also happen to be gifted will receive gifted services every day. And I do want to mention very quickly that at Midtown, we are looking at the students that are presently in the program, both on the gifted side and the cultural arts side, to see if there are some students that are already at the school that we would be looking to screen and to potentially recruit for our Center for Literacy Innovation. All right, so who can apply? If the students live in the zones for the following middle schools, they can apply. Azalea, Bay Point, John Hopkins, Medellin, and Tyrone. And just if you need to find your zone middle school, you can go to www.pcsb.org/zone. The application has opened. You can apply online between January 25th and February 5th. You will go to www.pcsb.org/CLI for information. And then you will apply, and I think it's up on our screen, but you will apply actually at the site listed here, and it's actually a form because we are doing this a little bit outside of the traditional application period. We want you to go to this site, and you will be able to apply there. So the next question is transportation offered? So we do offer arterial busing for students who live more than 2 miles from their schools as long as they are within the arterial zone. One question that we often get is whether or not students who have an IEP that requires transportation would have transportation. So because this is a choice program, if you would be within the zone, you would be able to receive that transportation as provided on the IEP. If outside of that, then you would need to provide transportation. And if there are questions, we can certainly answer those.
We have 2 questions coming in. The first one is, does your child have to have a formal diagnosis to be accepted into the school? So I'm going to direct that to go ahead with Miss Eileen.
Good evening. Students do not need to have a medical diagnosis of a reading difficulty, i.e. dyslexia, dysgraphia, in order to be considered and screened for our program.
The next question is also directed towards you, is how many of the teachers there do not have their degree yet?
Oh. We will have 5 teachers within the program. Each teacher does have their bachelor degree and is certified, but they'll also receive training in Lindemood Bell. It's going to be at least 26 hours of training on top of their college degrees.
And can I just chime in a little bit with that? So and I'm not sure if the question was around the pre-service teachers that I spoke about. So we want to use it as a training site for pre-service teachers, but they are actually learning from fully certified teachers with an extra amount of training on top of their full certification.
before we go on to introduce Ms. Victor and a little bit about Midtown. Just questioning, is the program for middle school students? So just verify or talk a little bit about what the program will be grade-wise for Midtown Academy.
So the Midtown Academy program will be grades 1 through 5. We do have plans to expand to middle school, not this year, but the following year, for those 5th graders that will be rising to 6th grade that are at Midtown.
Good evening. A little bit about Midtown Academy, Center for Cultural Arts and Gifted Studies. Our school hours are from 8:45 to 3:25. We are a uniform school with shorts and skirts and pants, khaki or blue. Uniform shirt with the collar, could be any color. And then students just need to wear sturdy tennis shoes and closed-toed every day. We are a small school. We have 308 students, kindergarten through 5th grade. We have 2 kindergarten classes and 4 classes in grades 1 through 5. And just as Ms. Mowat said, we do have transportation, and it's the same that applies for our Center for Cultural Arts and Gifted Studies. CLI will have the same arterial transportation. The beauty of Midtown is that all of our students receive PE every single day, art twice a week, and music twice a week. So it's a large umbrella that encompasses everyone that attends our school. So in addition to that, multiple grade level field trips and community partnerships, we are committed to exposing our students to the cultural opportunities right at their back door. Both the Center for Gifted Studies and CLI, the students are clustered. And Gifted Studies, they receive full-time services all day long. And for CLI, they're a group with full-time specialized reading services. And just as I stated, students receive music twice a week, art twice a week, PE every single day. We expose, explore, inspire, and create. Students have makerspace once a week. All of our students enjoy field trips as it relates to the art and music. So every grade level go to the Moran Center for Clay. And all of our students attend music field trips as well. A lot of Mahaffey Theater and also the Florida Orchestra for our 4th and 5th graders. Cultural Arts field trip to the Chihuly Collection. It's all background information, so it starts in the classroom by introducing the artist, exposing students to the artwork, and then talk about the properties of the sculpture and glass. So students went to that field trip, and then they came back to the school and created artwork that was inspired by their experience, and that's just our way of work at Midtown.
Okay, we're going to open it up for the question and answer portion of tonight's session. And we're going to start off with a question for Eileen. On the form to apply, they weren't able to specify if they were interested in the full program or the pullout. So could you explain the information? I think it's more of a misconception. So is there a pullout part to the CLI, or is it a full-time program?
This CLI program is an all-day program. It's inclusive. If your child needs special education services, those are within the classroom. If they need speech and language therapy, that also is in the classroom. All instruction takes place in the general education classroom. Not all students have disabilities, so they're together there. 2 teachers are teaching during the reading block. The reading block is 55 minutes long, and then they go into content. All of that is done in that classroom.
We have a question for you. Is there any parent involvement required to be a part of this program?
This is truly a magnet program. It's not like our fundamental programs where you have to have a parent meeting, but of course, we encourage you to be a part of the school. So absolutely, but there is no requirement in terms of being able to stay at the school.
For the CLI program, there is a parent component. It's oftentimes our parents struggle with, how do I help my child learn to read and acquire the skills? They're receiving intensive instruction during the class period time that we offer 2 trainings to parents during the school year, how they can best help their child. So yes, we do have an expectation upon parents for involvement in learning some strategies and tips to best help.
Okay, Ms. Mowat, why was the Lindemood Bell chosen over the pure Orton Gilliam or Wilson curriculum?
That's a great question. I get that question a lot. We chose Lindemood Bell because not only was the program very strong and they do a great deal of training, but there are also other aspects of the Lindemood Bell program that aren't offered through Orton Gillingham and through Wilson, and that's actually that verbalizing and visualizing component that we felt was really, really important. We do also use the math instruction from Lindemood Bell for some of our students who need that. So Lindemood Bell actually offered more for our students in terms of meeting the whole child's needs.
Thank you. Principal Victor, can you describe some of the before and after school programs or services that your school provides?
Well, currently we have our club before school and after school. They're as early as 6:30 in the morning until 6 p.m. in the afternoon. We do have other vans that come in, such as Bartley Park, which is right down the street from us, and we have some other after-school activities within the campus, of course, like extended learning program, iClass, and things of that nature.
Thank you. And we're going to go back to Miss Eileen. There's a question that has to do as far as the intensive portion of the day with the CLI program. So is it a 55-minute block or is it throughout the day? Can you explain that intensive section of the program?
I can. That is a great question. Our students are in small group instruction 55 minutes of the day, and that is skill-based grouping. All students who are working on the same skill are grouped there. All of the strategies that are used are integrated throughout the school day. As Ms. Mowat said, there's the On Cloud 9 piece for math. That again is the visualize and verbalize, so that's reinforced through math. It's integrated into science, social studies, and health as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Mowat, students with dyslexia often have some level of ADHD and anxiety as well. What are some things that the school does to cater to these, or how will the program be able to accommodate other disabilities such as ADHD?
So we actually have built the environment with that in mind. So our classrooms do look a little different than some other classrooms. We do utilize a lot of flexible seating. We encourage students to do a lot of whole body movement to learn some of their content. We do have plans to have a sensory walk on the campus. We also do include a lot of social emotional learning lessons within our content because we know that that's a really important need, and we want to make sure that that gets addressed throughout the school day, every day.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go with Miss Liley. For students that have auditory processing disorders but not dyslexia, is this a good program, or would you recommend them applying for this with the reading difficulties?
We screen each student prior to offering them a seat. With auditory processing disorder, I would recommend that the parent apply for the program and let us go ahead and screen. If they have a question, if this program's not right for them, we have instructional staff developers who could work at the child's home zone school with the teachers that are there to create the best program for their child. So I suggest that they apply and let's help them help their child.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Principal Victor, how many social workers and behavior specialists are on campus?
Well, I currently have one social worker and one behavior specialist on campus.
Thank you. We have another question about how frequently will children be assessed to monitor reading gains?
The students at the Center for Literacy are assessed without them even knowing that they're being assessed throughout their reading instruction. The teacher takes what we call blue notes as they go along throughout the instructional period. So daily data is taken. As much data as we can get on the student helps us build them a better program. So we thrive on data. Data drives all of our decisions.
Thank you.
Did you want to piggy?
Can I just add something? We also conduct a battery of assessments at the very beginning of the school year as well as the end of the school year, because we want to look at overall year to beginning of year to end of year growth. And they're a little different than the traditional assessments that are given by the school. In addition, the students would take the assessments such as MAP or ISIP, those kinds of things. But we do have a battery of assessments at the beginning and the end of the year to track growth.
Thank you very much. So if there's 20 students per grade level, can you describe what the teacher to student ratio would be for the CLI program? There's for as far as with co-teacher models.
The current model is 5 teachers, 1 per grade level. There will be a co-teacher, an ESE-trained co-teacher for the reading blocks in each of the classes. So during that 90-minute reading block, there will be 2 full-time certified teachers. There's also the speech and language pathologist who can also provide instruction within the classroom. It's the expectation that they would be working in the classrooms with the teachers.
Right.
Thank you so much. We have another question coming in as far as with the curriculum and the structure for the day that I'll direct back to you. You described a little bit about how the grade levels were fluid with reading. Are there any other subjects besides reading which have grade level fluidity?
Yes. Math is another one of the big areas that we're fluid with, but we would also do it in science and social studies for the students. Reading for meaning is huge for our students. That's where we want to get. We want to get to that comprehension level. And it's through content that we do that. So we would group students accordingly where they're at comprehension level-wise.
Thank you so much. Principal Victor, how does staff communication to parents work at your school? Do you use dojo, agendas, et cetera? So can you explain that process of communication at Midtown?
At Midtown, we use all the above. So our teachers are on dojo, as well as we have student agendas in every grade level, and email and phone calls and Teams. So our teachers are required to meet with parents for parent conferences once every semester. And of course, anytime any parent want to meet with the teacher, they just can arrange that at any time.
There's a question here which I may ask the person who wrote it to add a little bit more clarification. One of the questions is, will you accept children with behavior challenges? If
So we
we
get
get a
that.
little bit more clarification from the person who wrote it, we'll go ahead and be able to better address
Right,
the question.
right.
Okay. Another question for Ms. Liley. How much homework will they have? Is it an important part of the learning, or is it more classroom driven?
The homework that the students engage in relate back to what they did in the classroom. Is it very heavy in homework? No, but there is some. That's where if they're working on final vowel sounds, they might have to find them in the environment or work with the parent looking at a newspaper or a magazine article. Or there is some homework, and you're going to find there, as the school year goes on and the child becomes more proficient, the expectation for homework will increase.
Thank you. So we have another question coming back as far as a teacher and how it works with a student in the CLI program. So you talked about the certified co-teachers. Does that mean that each student will have a few teachers? How would the transitioning between teachers work?
It's really a beautiful dance. You have two teachers who are also highly trained in different models of how to co-teach. So one teacher could be teaching the vocabulary that's going into the lesson, that when they move small group, they'll already be primed and ready to receive that instruction, have the vocabulary that they need, and be able to thrive in that lesson. Oftentimes our children don't know they know they have two teachers. They really don't get the concept, there's one teacher, there's one visiting teacher. They are two teachers. The students know they have two teachers, they respect two teachers. We do a lot of training to make sure behavior management is the same, the expectations are the same, the way that we bring about appropriate behaviors are the same. So it's pretty seamless. It's pretty neat to watch.
Thank you. Ms. Mowat, so we have a North County program, we're now having a South County program. If they have a student in the Central County program, what is your expectation as far as program growth to meet all the students' needs in the county?
So we had always hoped that we would have a north, south, and a mid-county site. So we are looking, hopefully, to expand to mid-county. I do want to sort of highlight something that Ms. Liley said because it's really, really important. We know that for some of our families and our students, they aren't within either of the arterial zones right now. But we do want them to know that we are, if we do need to, we will screen students and we will work with the staff to make sure that they get the appropriate intervention and instruction that is necessary. I would not want anyone to ever think that we aren't committed to ensuring that. But certainly we are looking to have a mid-county site in the very near future, as well as I mentioned, an expansion middle school site for the year after next.
Thank you. Ms. Liley, if a student's making gains and is on grade level, will they be dismissed from the program?
I'd really like Ms. Mowat to address this issue because we do have students who are successful, and I just like, she says it's so beautiful.
So we don't want to kick them out for sure, but we do, our goal with this program has always been to close the gap, if you will, within 2 to 3 years, because that's what we expect based on the level of intensity of instruction. So what we do is we work very closely and collaboratively with the families as the student is progressing to let them know how they're doing. We would certainly, if it looked like the student was at a place where they were ready to move on, I think we would work very closely with Ms. Victor to see, are there ways for us to have that student remain at the school until they age out? They just might not be participating necessarily in the Center for Literacy classes, but maybe within the campus. So, our goal is to try to minimize the moves, but our goal is really to close the gap. And so if that happens, it's a big celebration for sure. But I would say that we would not be looking to move them right out.
Thank you. Principal Victor, wondering about an opportunity where you would showcase or allow parents or students to possibly tour or get a better idea of what the facility is like. They want to make sure that they're comfortable about making a potential change. Will there be an opportunity where the campus will be available?
That is certainly a possibility, but of course, it would have to be within the guidelines. We do have on our website, we do have videos of the school, so you can kind of see the school in action. And so I encourage you to look at that. In addition to that, there will be things in the future in terms of allowing you to see what the campus is like during the day.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Liley, if there are students who are currently in the gifted program and would like to receive CLI, do they have to be in the CLI program to receive the services? Can you explain what would happen for a student who is gifted? Could they be in full-time gifted and get the CLI components, or do they have to be in the CLI program?
We would really want to work with the family to meet the student's needs. If it's in their best interest to remain in the gifted program, then we would have them come in for services through us. I will say, though, that because the integration of the strategies into all areas of the student's instructional day, it is beneficial for them to be there throughout the entire day. So that is a conversation that we need to have with the parent and take into account the social emotional aspects of it, the academic aspects. A lot goes into that decision, and it does need to be made with the student in mind.
Okay. Ms. Mowat, so if a student is going to be in 5th grade next year, do you think the benefits of the program outweigh the change of a school for 1 year?
100% absolutely, yes.
Okay. A question for either Ms. Mowat or Ms. Liley. If you live in Mid-County, how would they go about, or who could they contact to get screened?
The person to contact would be Barbara Wilmarth. Her last name is spelled Wilmarth. She could be reached at 588-6000 and ask for her. She's in the ESE department. There's also the Let's Talk app on the PCSB website. If a parent just wants to go on there and submit that request, it will come directly to me, and I will get it to Barbara Wilmarth.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mowat, another question directed towards you. So one of our watchers has a son who's on the spectrum. High functioning is mainstreamed. They're seeing delays in reading and reading comprehension, which is ultimately affects all subject areas. Do you accept children on the spectrum who don't specifically have a dyslexia diagnosis? They're loving what you have to offer with the sensory instruction. It'd be a perfect environment. What other factors do you make when the decision as when kids are accepted, or the screening process?
So, I'm going to kind of answer those questions a little bit out of order. Because again, number one, they do not have to have a dyslexia diagnosis. When I say we do look at students with dyslexia, because we do know that we have students in our district that have it, that is certainly not a requirement, but we want to make sure that we're addressing their needs. So they don't have to have that diagnosis, nor do they need to be ESE or have an IEP. As far as the rest of the question, I'm going to kind of answer it the same way that Ms. Liley did, and that they should apply and allow us to screen them. And then that way we can get all of the information on their student to see, if it is the right fit for them. And then, in the event that it isn't, we will again work with them and support them in the school. But again, I really think that it is important, if you're not sure, please go ahead and apply and let us screen so that we can get all of the information and help the best way that we can.
Thank you. Ms. Liley, another question directed to you. So if a child receives speech as part of the IEP, would they still be pulled out, or would they receive speech in the class? Or is it integrated as part of the program?
That's a great question. Speech services can look very different for students. It really depends on in what area their disability is. There are times when we would pull out. If a student needs to have his tongue manipulated by a speech and language pathologist, we wouldn't do that within the confines of the classroom. We would have them with the speech and language pathologist, privately. As much as we can keep them in the general education classroom and with their peers, we would do that. But there are certainly times where a speech and language path might have to pull a student out.
Thank you. We have another question as far as the selection process. If there is more interest than their availability of seats, will there be any ranking or any specific criteria that is looked at? So can you explain what would happen if there's more interest than seats, and would those students be able to get services elsewhere?
Do you want to? Yeah.
So what we do is, they, just like any magnet program, when a parent applies, you are given a random number. So what we do is we screen all of the students, and then based on that random number, we accept students into the program. So if the student isn't, if there are more students than there are spaces, the students are placed on a wait list, and we carefully monitor that just like we would any wait list. What we did when we opened our other Center for Literacy Innovation is, for the students that went on the wait list, we did follow up with their schools. We did provide them with the screening information, and we did work specifically with those school sites to make sure that the teachers were given some very specific training so that they could work with those students and address those needs.
Thank you. Ms. Liley, when will they know if a student has been selected?
The application period ends February 5th. The screenings will take place throughout the month of February, and by the end of the first week of March, we plan to have all notification done.
Thank you. And will that notification, as far as if they're being accepted, rely solely on the screening outcome?
The screener definitely gives us some hard data to go by. We have to have the right student for the right intervention. There are a couple of other things that we take a look at. It is very important for our students to be in school to get the most out of their education. So we do take a look at attendance. And that's about the only other criteria that I can think of. Can you think of any other, Ms. Mowat? Yeah, so it pretty much is the screener and then attendance. We need attendance rates for them to be in attendance more than 90% of the time.
Thank you so much. We have another question coming in. Okay, how do students currently in the Midtown Gifted Program participate? I think we asked this one already. If they are already in the Gifted Program, would they have to leave the Gifted Program to be in the CLI program?
If the parent believes that the student would benefit from the CLI program, again, I would say, let us screen. And then we would have to make a decision on an individual basis as to which program is best for them.
And can I also add, we do make sure that we keep those lines of communication open when we do the screener, because part of the screener actually involves the parents. So, we do, once we've completed the screener, we would be having those conversations if a student looked to be, it looked like that intervention was the right intervention, we would definitely have conversations with the family about that.
Thank you so much. We're getting a couple more questions as far as what the screening process entails. Could you just describe what aspects they look at when you screen?
There are 5 components to the screener. We're taking a look at phonological and phonemic awareness, word attack, comprehension, encoding and decoding words, the ability to manipulate sound. We also take a look at the social history of the student. That's part of the screener that we do with the parent.
And we do a
Okay.
Record
We also
review.
do a records review to look at prior reading history.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're getting a couple questions in as far as if they, you said you referred to that you look at attendance, but if the attendance is missed due to possible COVID exposure, is that going to count against them, or will
No.
there be an exception made?
Yeah, no. COVID will not be held against this student.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
And let me just clarify that as well. I do come from an ESE background. If we have students with medical issues, we're understanding of those things.
So we have, or just waiting to see if any more questions come in. What is the hiring process going to look like for teachers who would like to be involved in the CLI program?
Do you want to answer that? Okay, I'll answer that question. So we will first look at the teachers that are currently at Midtown. We do believe that we have some interest in that school already. So what we'll do is meet with the teachers. We will, talk to them a little bit about their reading background. Miss Victor knows them, and she knows their skill level and expertise, so that's very, very helpful. And then what we would be doing is really talking to them about, the level of commitment to the intensive training, because again, this is a lot of training for the teachers. With our partnership with USF, it's ongoing throughout the year, as well as the Linda Mood Bell program and ongoing coaching there. We also want for the teachers to feel comfortable having people come and observe, because our goal is, once we're able to bring different teachers and administrators and others back into our schools, we want them to be able to see what this instruction looks like. So we are going to start with that, with their staff first, and then depending on how that goes, if there are some openings, then we would look to have teachers apply. Again, we would be looking specifically for teachers who have a strong reading background and a strong understanding of different learning needs, the need for movement, the need to, have flexibility and music and movement and all of that built into their day. And so at that point, it would really be the traditional hiring process. People would apply, and then we would interview and look for the best candidates.
Thank you so much. Ms. Liley, we're getting a question is, if a fourth grader who cannot read at all, would this student possibly be eligible?
Absolutely. I would really like to take a look at that student and screen them, and let's find out what's going on.
Thank you. I think we have. Once again, if you would just go review how to apply and when the application period is.
The application period opened on the 25th, January 25th, and it goes through 5 p.m. March 5th. You can apply by going to pcsb.org /CLI. That's where you could go for information, and then to apply, it would be https://asd.pcsb.org/school-wires-form/literacy-innovation/. So I
thank
believe
you.
it's on your screen.
Yes, and we're going to put it in the chat box. So that link and that website will be in the chat box for that.
I will say there are a couple of questions there for the parents that aren't on a traditional magnet form. Those questions do need to be answered.
So we have one parent, and I know we've said for more specific, but just once again going like a student who has behavioral challenges and a number of discipline referrals have a chance. And that might be, as there was a comment in there, to call with more specific information that could be addressed with that. But as far as discipline referrals still apply.
Well, then, that, sometimes that can be a result of reading difficulties.
Right.
So again, we really encourage that if your student if they're showing difficulties with decoding, phonemic awareness, when they're trying to read, they they're trying to sound out words and they're just not getting it. If that's the case, we want you to apply. And then we will, again, screen and take a look to make sure that, that they are certainly aligned to this intervention, but we would want them to apply.
Thank you so much. And we're just going to wrap up with one last question before we go. And it's just a quick review. We had someone join us a little bit late asking about the curriculum approaches. So just a real quick overview once again of which curriculum and approaches for the program.
The CLI program uses the Linda Mood Bell programs. We start with LIPS, which that is a basic phonological awareness curriculum. Then we go on to Seeing Stars. That is word attack, phonemic awareness, sound manipulation. And then we move, once we have the vocabulary piece, the decoding and the vocabulary piece down, we move to the visualizing and verbalizing, which is where we get into the heavy comprehension and fluency piece with our students. Again, it's 55 minutes a day in intensive instruction, and then it's infused throughout the student's school day.
Okay, well, this concludes our evening event. Thank you so much for joining us. Your questions were amazing, and we're glad that we were able to hear some of them. Again, please visit the website. The website will have the Q&A after we finish this session. We look forward to you applying.